Hello and welcome to another faction difficulty rating for Total War Warhammer 2. I am Dame Offensive. Today we're going to be discussing the Exiles of Nehek. The race effects include no upkeep on units, the use of canopic jars for crafting magical items and better units. You can awaken dynasties for new armies and heroes, and you can find the Books of Nagash for unique bonuses. In terms of faction effects, the Exiles of Nehek gain 2 canopic jars per turn. They have low relations with the Dark Elves, bonus campaign movement range, and bonus casualty replenishment. Khatep's legendary Lord bonuses include increased capacity and recruit rank for Lich Priests. The rating system I use is pretty simple. 10 is really perfect, 5 is standard, and 1 is really bad. Theoretically, high numbers are good for beginner players, and lower numbers are way more difficult. First is rating Exiles of Nehek's start. In terms of infrastructure available, I'm going to give him a 3. He has a Tier 2 minor settlement, which is costly to upgrade to get better units. In terms of mobility, I'm also going to give him a 3. There are little hills that suddenly stop movement, so you kind of move in bursts and can accidentally pass the different levels of movement really easily. In terms of starting units, I'm going to give him a 9. He starts with Nehekara warriors and a Hierophant Titan, but he does have 2 Lich Priests immediately available, and if you disband the first one, you can recruit 2 more right at level 4. In terms of starting battles, I'm going to give him a 2. You start at war with the Beastmen, but they're not close to you, so you don't necessarily even ever fight them. And there are small settlements around that you can fight, but they're not particularly close. It is pretty easy to get experience in battle if you use sack cities, but then that increases the amount of enemies you have. So average these scores out and he gets a start rating of 4.25. It's a really difficult start on paper, but the really good heroes and availability of sack cities can help increase your power. Next is rating the timing of advancement. In terms of province completion, I'm going to give him a 1. It's almost impossible to complete your province in a reasonable number of turns, and even if it's done, it's probably detrimental to you because you can't protect the full province given how long and snaky it is. In terms of availability of a sack city, I kind of talked about it a little bit. He's going to get a 10. There are lots of good choices of sack cities because there are only minor settlements nearby, really, so you can level up really fast. In terms of timing of stack completion, I'm going to give him a 10. It's really easy to get a full stack since you have no upkeep. You can get it within 3 turns. In terms of power of stack completion, I'm going to give him a 2. You're mostly going to have very weak melee infantry, and it takes a long time to get better units and level up your heroes. So average out his advancement rating and he gets a 5.75. There are great aspects about how he advances, complemented by very weak aspects. Taking advantage of the sack cities and getting your Lich Priests leveled will be your strength, but it really means turtling a lot. Next, we'll rate the comfort zone. In terms of timing of enemy elimination, I'm going to give him a 5. The Beastmen can be eliminated very early and often not by you. They're usually just dealt with by somebody else. And then you're free to choose the next enemy you wish to attack, but you will be completely surrounded by Dark Elves who will start to declare war on you. In terms of timing of sustaining additional armies, I'm going to give him a 1. Getting additional armies earlier will probably weaken your main army, because the cost to get more units unlocked comes very late. So if you want 2 medium armies, you're going to take power away from your main army, or you can have 1 strong army and 1 very weak army. That's almost useless. In terms of the timing to reach a finisher stack, I'm going to give him a 3. Khatep would do better than some of the other Tomb Kings because of his powerful Lich Priests and the extra capacity, but the rest of his stack will be chaff for a very long time. In terms of timing of safety from neighbors, I'm going to give him a 2. Any expansion is going to incite more enemies, especially from the Dark Elves that you have negative relations with, and it'll start to spread you thin. Average Z scores out and he gets a 2.75. This is where the real challenge is as Khatep. It takes you a very long time to feel safe enough to move beyond your borders. His overall difficulty average is a 4.25. His rating is about the same as Wolfheart, who I did last, and rated as medium hard, but it's mostly because he has some very big strengths that offset the averages when he has very weak things as well. So I think overall, his campaign works out a bit harder. Some additional notes about the Exiles of Nehek campaign. In terms of Confederation, that's just not available as Tomb Kings, which definitely makes advancement a bit harder because you can't depend on getting somebody else to have worked on some settlements for you. In terms of rights and abilities, the Tomb Kings have amazing rights, but they cost so much money that it comes infrequently. I would actually prioritize the rights over upgrading buildings in most cases. And the crafting can be handy, but it can be slow as Khatep because you don't necessarily have a lot of ingredients available. In terms of special strategies with the Exiles of Nehek, I think many people work up to having Tyrion or Etain as a vassal to increase income, and once you reach that point, you're in a good spot. But it does take a fair amount of time, especially if you're stuck home defending. My summary of the Exiles of Nehek difficulty. There are excellent strengths in this campaign, offset by some major hurdles. Once you can reach a point with a strong second army and to get a good vassal, you're in great shape and could start to consider migration, but that might take a long time. This is a DLC. The Tomb Kings DLC is very popular, but they are all quite tough, but they do have one of the biggest play differences from other races. So even though it's a challenge, if you like the play, it's probably worth it. But that's going to be it for this difficulty rating of the Exiles of Nehek, led by Khatep. If you like this and you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe. You know how YouTube works. Goodbye.